Very good day to all of you. My name is Jukka Kortesniemi from Micro Focus, and I am our Nordic sales leader for our application development, our DevOps solutions, and for our hybrid IT technologies. Very nice to have you all here today with us. Just to inform you before we start this webinar, I would like to tell you that this webinar will be recorded, and I hope that we will have a really interesting topics for you to discuss today about our latest and greatest in functional testing and artificial intelligence. Let's go through the agenda of today. So you will see here, today you will hear from us the latest that how do we deliver revolutionary advances in functional testing with our artificial intelligence capabilities. That part of the presentation will be done by our product management lead, Eran, and then we will see in practice real live demo by our Nordic sales engineer, Kim Vestergaard, and then we will have a proper time to have Q&A. And please feel free to post any questions you might have during the event already in the chat, and we will try to pick up those questions already while you write them. But before we start the event, I would like to tell you a few words about our Micro Focus universe. Micro Focus universe is our main customer and partner event, which is coming up now on March 23rd to 25th. And that gives you a fantastic opportunity to learn more about Micro Focus technologies, to learn more about functional testing and our artificial intelligence capabilities across the different areas that we are delivering to you and potentially to your customers in case you are our partner. So in order to start the event, let me introduce the speakers for all of you. We'll have here Jerry. Jerry is acting as our moderator today. Nice to have you here, Jerry. And then we have Eran. He's our product management lead. And then we have Kim, our Nordic sales engineer, doing the demo for you. So let's get started. I'm sure you will be impressed. We have fantastic news for you. And it's up to you. Please let us know at the end of the event. How impressed were you? Tell us. We want to hear your input and the comments and what you see is interesting. So, Jerry, please go ahead.
Thank you, Jukka. In name of our sales engineering team, also a warm welcome everybody to today's session. I have the pleasure today to be your moderator, meaning you will see and hear more from me towards the end in the Q&A session. So please post all your questions in the chat. We have plenty of time to go through them. And I also have the pleasure to introduce one of my colleagues who is the expert when it comes to test automation in our Nordics geography, and that's Kim Vestergaard. Kim, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jerry. So, and nice words, by the way. So today we have the pleasure of having, well, not me, actually, our main star of the show here is Eran, who is running the in our functional efforts in the, especially here in the AI arena. But before we're putting over, the show to Eran, we have a poll that we would like you to participate in, and I think it will pop up here. I'm not sure that I can see it. Just say when we can see it, please. Where we would like to get your input on what is actually the greatest challenge with automated testing. So please give a 1 or 2 or 3 answers. You can do that and submit your answers, and then we will just make a quick review on what you are seeing as the greatest challenge. And we have, pace of change is too fast, test keeps breaking, test can't run quickly enough, lack of test coverage, and lack of quality. So we will just give you maybe 30 seconds, and then we will hopefully review the results. So we have done these before in other regions, so we have a good idea of what actually is. And look and behold, yes, our main culprit, test keeps breaking, is also on the top of your agenda here with 59%, and then a good distribution of the rest. And I think that will align really good with what Iran has to show you in the following session, and also why we have actually gone down the road to develop this whole new AI capability into our automation suite. So with that, we'd like to introduce Iran, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kim, and I'm super happy to be with you today, guys. As been told, I'm from the product management team, and I'm responsible for our functional testing strategy, and mainly leading our cloud, mobile, and AI ML initiatives. In today's session, we are going to show you some exciting stuff around how you guys can achieve continuous testing with intelligent test automation. And looking at your poll results, those are pretty much resonates with what we see in the market, what we hear from our customers. And we don't just hear from our customers, we are taking action upon it. And this is exactly what we have been doing for the last 2 years with that feedback that we got from you, and how we introduce technologies that will help you to overcome those challenges that you were answering in the poll. I'd like to start this session by taking you with me to the journey testing has gone through in the last 4 decades or so. So, starting going back to the early 80s, it was no really need to scale testing beyond manual because few things. First of all, user experience was not really exist, and we had a very limited variety of endpoints that we can or should interact with. And that leads to the fact that we need tens of tests in order to validate something before delivered to production. And that was the kind of the main reason of not investing or not justifying the investment in automation. But in the early 90s, we saw the increased desktop ecosystem and the emerging web, mainly because of the introduction of the Windows operating system. And we saw the first browsers coming to our space. We saw the native desktop applications, as well as the first WW kind of websites. And that was the moment where we had the need to have lightweight automation tools, because the number of tests that needs to be covered using those different endpoints was increased from tens to hundreds. In the first decade of that century, web is the king. You probably all using today the Chrome and the Firefox and the Safari and Mac and others. But something also happened in this decade. Something happened in 2007, and to be more precise, on June 9, 2007, where Apple announced the first iPhone. This was the smartphone, means it came with the computing power that capable of running applications, native applications, but also capable of running browser on this mobile device. Right after Apple announced their flavor of the smartphone, we saw the Android flavor with the different vendors such as LG, Sony, Samsung, and others coming with their flavor of the smartphone. And that was the moment where it changed completely the landscape of how we consuming applications, because now we have the desktop browsers, which are much more rich, but we also have the mobile devices. And many applications can be consumed from those endpoints. In addition, in that decade, we also saw the growth and the change within the way we develop applications. We saw the introduction of the iterative development, where it became the agile kind of a development, the initial days of DevOps, where the bottom line for the development organization, and in particular the QA teams, is that they had to do a much more repetitive task and a faster task in order to provide the feedback to the overall organizations if we can deliver yes, no. Those two reasons actually leads to the point where we had to have a much more robust automation, because the number of tests that needs to be covered were thousands of tests. In the last decade of that century that we just ended a few months back, it was all about digital first, because the end users drives almost everything, and it's all about scale. We need to scale everything. We need to scale the way we set up the environment. We need to scale the effect of how we test our different endpoints. And the number of tests, growth from thousands to tens of thousands, and all the things that we saw in the first decade of that century actually growth exponentially in a way that we just need to increase the way we do our activities on a daily basis. And you know what the future holds for us? Probably more things around smarter IoT devices, smarter wearables that will increase the ability for us to interact with the different endpoints and consume the different applications. And that leads to the point where we cannot even estimate what it means in terms of the number of tests that needs to be covered, either on a daily basis, either on a release basis. And the bottom line is that we need to work smarter. Definitely not harder, because the world has changed, and so should automation. But when we say that we need to work smarter, let's talk about it for a second and let's understand what it means in our space. Work smarter means that we need to be smarter with the way we do the test design. Work smarter means that we need to be smarter with the way we do the test automation. And it also means that we need to be smarter with the way we do the overall test maintenance. Because if we won't do so, we will not be able to keep the pace and address the different business demands. Now, we in Micro Focus, looked at some of those technologies that exist out there that you guys are going to see today to help you to be smarter with the way you are doing your overall test automation activities. But before I'll show you how we leverage different AI capabilities within our solutions, let's talk about how AI is disrupting the world as of today. And I'll start with kind of a short overview on predictions, the short-term predictions in regards to the AI. So the first thing is that we see that more than 80% of businesses says that AI is a strategic priority for their businesses of today. And we see that more than 75% of commercial enterprise application will use AI by 2021, as indicated by IDC. And more than 80% of emerging technologies will have AI foundation by 2021 in their solutions. But those are like predictions, as I told you before. Let's see what is already happening in the space of the AI with the different industries that we have out there. So we see that around about 40% of organizations already using AI in their workplace in FY19. And I can guarantee you that the number in FY20, it's even higher. And if we are looking at on the digitally mature organization, we can see that around about 50% of those have already defined AI strategy. So it's not about that they are thinking about it, that they are examining it. They are in a phase that they understand and realize that they are going to use AI technologies, and they have a strategy exactly how they are going to implement it. And we see that more than 50% of executives that already implemented AI in their processes, services, and solution already see signs of improving in efficiency and productivity in the overall organization, which those are very, very good signs. But up until now, I've mainly used AI kind of as a buzzword. I'm pretty much sure that some of you here today with us knows the basic of AI, but I would like to spend the next 2-3 minutes in order to kind of set the stage of, the basics of AI and walk you through this stuff. So let's talk about AI in a nutshell. The first thing, AI, at the end of the day, it's an area of computer science that aim to provide intelligence to the machines. And I'm pretty much sure that each and every one of you heard the different terms around artificial intelligence and machine learning and deep learning and data science and many, many other terms. Let's do an order in those different terms. So artificial intelligence, it's the umbrella, as I've just said. The machine learning, it's a subset of the artificial intelligence, and those are a set of algorithms that eventually will allow the computer to get this intelligence that we are aiming for. And the deep learning, it's a subset of machine learning that actually take a multi-layered networks that eventually create the algorithms that will allow the artificial intelligence to become something that indeed solve the problem as we expect them to be. And the data science, which is a super important topic in that area of machine learning and deep learning, this is the area where we need to first understand what is the problem that we're trying to solve, and we are going to talk about it. And once we understand what is the problem that we're trying to solve, what will be the data that we need to collect in order to make sure that this data can serve us in order to build those machine learning and deep learning algorithms that eventually can be used in production to solve the problems that we are aiming for. Now, the software of AI is trained to perform a simple task as well as complex ones. So you can see on the right side on the figure here, so this is relatively a simple task for AI to identify a profile icon or a card icon. And the way to get there is by collecting a data set that will represent different profile icons, different card icons, send it to the training agent. Once the training agent will train using the algorithms that I've just walked you through, we will have an AI model that eventually we are going to test it. Once we test it and we feel comfortable with the results, and we are going to talk about what the results that we're comfortable with are, we will send it to the production. Production means that this AI engine will be fed into a program, into a software that eventually use it in order to get answers once new data is being injected into the AI engine. Now, up until today, mainly in the computer vision space, we see that AI applications are mainly around pattern and matching algorithms. And in order to do so, we have the different features, which are the things that allow us to understand what exactly we see on the screen. And you can see that we have low-level features and we have high-level features. And as long as we go to the high-level features, you see some more clear I would say pictures and figures. And as long as you go to the low features, you saw some abstractive things that eventually the AI can understand and can determine what we see on the screen. Last but not least, it's about how AI works. It works by having an input data, comparing into the output and to the expected result. So you can see here, for example, let's say that we have educated or we trained an AI engine to identify a card or a profile. Once this AI engine will get this new data, we will know based on a prediction level or accuracy rate if what we see is a card or it's not a card. AI engine will not be able to say what it is if it was not trained to do so. So this is in a nutshell the four, I would say, big elements and the four foundations for AI in general. We can talk about hours about AI fundamentals and things like that, but probably it will be less relevant for today's session. Now, once we have this AI engine ready for use, then it will apply to solve a specific problem. And this is very, very important note that you guys should take with you. When you build an AI engine, remember that first of all, you need to define the problem that you want to solve. What is the data that needs to be injected into those? And then you will have probably a good AI engine that can serve your needs. And let's look at some examples. The first, let's say that we want to build an AI engine that will be able to analyze CT and MRI scans. So what we need to do basically is to collect millions of different CT and MRI scans, which are tagged, and we know exactly what we have there, and send it to the deep learning engines that eventually we will have an AI engine that once he will get the new data, he will know to predict based on accuracy rate what exactly has happened with this new CT or new MRI scan. But if you will take this CT and MRI scan and you will feed it into a car, and you will hope that this AI engine will be able to recognize a stop sign and slowing down a car, that won't happen. Because remember, this is not the problem that we are trying to solve. If we want to solve the number 2 problem here on the screen, we need to create a data set which will include many examples of different stop signs. We will need to educate an AI engine that will be able to identify the different stop signs in different conditions, in different weather, in different time of the day. And once this will be ready, we will apply this to the car. And once the car will see the stop sign, it will be able to slow down. And you know what? If we'll take this AI engine and we'll hope that that can help me to serve automated responder and online customer support, yes, you're right. It won't help you, because you need to build a dedicated AI engine that will do this work. So what is basically the challenges that prevent us in our space to scale automation? Because this is what you guys answered in the poll in the beginning of the session, and I saw the answers: tests keep breaking, pace of change, lack of coverage. Those are the kind of things, and you were perfectly right, that actually are your key challenges that prevent you to scale the test automation to the level that you guys want. And let's talk about these key challenges in a bit more detailed way. So the first thing, we see the frequent releases. And the frequent releases, it's mainly because of the way we are developing software today. We have all in the space. We are all in the space of agile. We are all in the space of DevOps. We need to release faster because it's not yet another slogan in the office that we need to release faster, because it's a real business need. And if we will not be able to keep the pace, probably the competition will beat us. And furthermore, if you look at, for example, on the continuous testing way, we need to release basically on a daily basis. Because even if you're not releasing to production, you want to have those nightly runs that will execute automation, that will give you the confidence, the QA team, that the daily check-in didn't introduce any regression whatsoever to the basic operation of the system. And if that won't be achieved, then you do not have the safety net, you don't have the desired confidence level that the developers can work in an agile way and introduce new check-ins on a daily basis, that those check-ins wouldn't create any regression to the existing functionality. The second challenge, it's about time and effort. We talked about, in today's reality, users drives everything and it's all digital, and that's right, because if you will think about it, the most of the applications that you guys consume on a daily basis are either web or either mobile applications. And if you will think about it, for the mobile space, you have the iOS, you have the Android, you have the mobile web, and you spend tons of time on design the different test automation scripts, and tons of time on execution, and even furthermore, tons of time on maintaining those scripts once tests keep breaking. And why those tests keep breaks, we will talk about it in the next few minutes. And last but not least, the automation thing is hard. And we all understand the importance of automation, but unfortunately, up until today, the minority of the team are still the guys that have the automation skill set and the capabilities, and the majority of the team are the guys that have less of this skill set, and they cannot contribute to the automation efforts, which eventually prevent you to scale automation to the level you want it to be. Those three key challenges actually leads to the bottom line of having low automation coverage rates, around about 30% and decreasing, and high maintenance costs, around about 50% and increasing. And it's obvious that if those are the numbers, well, we will not be able to scale automation. Now, what I want to show you now is an example that I'm pretty much sure each and every one of you will find a common in your organization and will justify, the tests keep breaking and the pace of change and the lack of coverage, as you said in the beginning of the session. So let's deep dive to the example I want to give today. Let's say that I need to automate a business process of buying an item in an e-commerce application. The application is available as native mobile app, as well as hybrid one, and on a desktop browser. So you can understand that the immediate challenge is that we need to create 4 different scripts in order to automate the same flow. Now, for the experts here on the line, yes, you're going to say, no, we don't need 4 different scripts. We can have one script with 4 different object repositories. Yes, you're right. But still, you need to maintain 4 different object repositories, because the SDK to interact with the Android, with the iOS, with the mobile web, with the desktop browsers, those are different SDK. And once application break because of changes that will be introduced, then you need to maintain not a single script, but multiple scripts. Now, in order to convey my message even more, I did an automation for the login action. I've been using the UFT one and the UFT mobile that you can see here. And let's drive this simple action, which will be the login to my e-commerce application. Now, I'll start by launching my application on the mobile device. I'll click on the menu. I'll click on the login, provide the username, the password, and click on the login button, which is very straightforward kind of automation. This action one now, for the guys that know the foundation of automation, can be wrapped as a reusable action. It can be wrapped as a business component if you are using BPD. And you're going to use it probably not in one test, but almost in all of the tests that you have within your application. Now, what happened yesterday night is that one of our developers decided to flip between the menu and the cart, as you can see here on the screen, and he did the commit for it. This change basically should not influence on my automation, because eventually I'm interacting not with the UI, but I'm interacting with the object properties. But what happened, even without the developer awareness, is that UI change also introduced a change to the object properties that in that case I was kind of counting on in order to uniquely identify this element. Now you can imagine to yourself what will happen now to this test. So instead of clicking on the menu, I will click on the cart. Probably I will not find a login button. I will not find the username and password, and my test has failed. Now, if I'll catch this change during the day, well, I can now do the maintenance for 4 different scripts. I can check in it, and hopefully the continuous testing that will run through the night will be able to run as expected. But if I will not catch this change during the day, it means that my continuous testing will fail. It means that my safety net didn't provide me the safety that I need, and the entire DevOps is affected, which means that I have no confidence whatsoever in regards to the fact that the daily check-ins of today didn't introduce any regressions to the basic operations of the environment as I would expect it to be. Now, why is it happening? And again, as I told you, in the last, I would say, 20 years, from the moment automation was born, it was the same concept of object identification. It's based on physical object properties. Whatever the framework is, whether if it's a web, whether if it's a mobile, whether if it's desktop, regardless the application type, there are properties. We're trying to hook on those properties and uniquely identify the object so we can interact with it. And changes in the application implementation might impact the way we identify those objects and will break the automation. This is the #1 problem in automation, and unfortunately, we didn't solve it, and no one solved this problem for the last, I would say, more than 2 decades. And this is exactly where we looked at what is happening in the market, and we said this is the problem that we want to solve. Because if we will be able to solve this problem, then we will be able to decrease the maintenance rates, and we will be able to help customers to increase the automation rates as well. So that was the kind of the thinking process for us. What if we could automate the business process, the same business process of buying an item in an e-commerce application, the same way as human does? And, if you will think about it for a second, if I'll ask you guys to take this simple business process and I'll give you an iPhone, I'll give you an Android, or I'll give you a mobile web, you don't need 4 different scripts in order to run the same script. And you know what? Even if I'll introduce this change of flip between the menu and the cart, you will be able to easily run the test. You might gonna tell me, hey, you know what? You flip between the menu and the cart. What the hell happened here? But still, you guys are going to be able to accomplish the functional test. And why is that? Because you see the elements on the screen the same way, okay, as they are appearing on the screen. How you see it, you have the eyes to see the things. The information that you see on the screen is being sent to your neural networks. Those neural networks take the pieces of the things that you see on the screen and connect it into something that you can determine. So for example, if I'll ask you to find the card, to find the profile, to find the input field, to find the button, you will be able to do it with no problem, either on a mobile device, either on a mobile web. But computers see this information. They see the binaries, they see the XPath, they see the CSS, they see the locators. This is how computers works. And if you just look at this, when we are saying that we want to automate a test as human does, it means that we need to provide, or we need to find a way to introduce intelligence to the machine. but a machine is not intelligent like human being. So it should be an artificial intelligence. And this is exactly what led us to look at some AI research major areas. Many areas around the general intelligence and the perception and the planning and the knowledge representation and others. And we have decided to focus on the following three. The perception, which is an area in AI that help us to mimic the different human senses. In that case, we want to see things, and this is definitely one of the human senses. And we want to see things in order to recognize the different objects. And once we see, we want also to understand what can be done with that. And exactly for that, we have been leveraged the machine and deep learning in order to do the elements classification. So for example, if we see a button, we know we can click on it. If we can see a text input, then we know that we need to provide an input in order to interact with this specific object. And also, we have been looking at some natural language processing areas to help and simplify the overall test case design. So the team that does not equip with the scripting and coding knowledge will be able relatively with a small ramp up to be able to contribute to the automation efforts as well. So the bottom line is that we have built and we have infused UFT1 and UFT Developer with the eyes using computer vision capabilities to see the different elements on the screen exactly like human does. We have been leveraging the neural network in order to build the brain to UFT1 and UFT Developer. So once we see things and we understand what we see, we know exactly how to interact with it in a natural way. And we've also leveraged natural language capabilities in order to be able to write scripts in a much more natural language. So eventually, all the team can be part of the automation efforts. With that, what I'd like to show you now is an end-to-end demo on this example that I've started with, buy an item in an e-commerce application. And the demo is going to be split into 4 parts. The first piece will be the design, and I'm going to show you some of the great capabilities that you have today in the design phase. I'm going to show you how easy it is to provide a feedback if something is not working directly from the tool itself. We will walk through the execution piece, and I'm going to show you how a single script can be executed on a multiple browsers, different languages, as well as on a mobile device. And last but not least, how you can leverage the rich reporting in order to leverage the AI as of today. So let's start with the design part. The design part is one of the most important phases because we are going to design the entire test. And one of the things I want you to think about is that up until today, basically, if the application does not exist, we cannot start with do testing, right? Because we need the application in order to do the testing. Well, if we're using AI and we do not count on the object repository anymore, and actually we don't care about those anymore, basically, if there are mockup or mockup exist, even before a single line of code was written by the developers, we can start do the testing by using the snapshot being taken from the mockup solutions. So that will help you to accelerate the test design. And once the application will be ready, you will be able to use different capabilities such as the recording, the inspection, and other in order to create and enrich your test. The script itself is going to be much more resilient because as long as human being will be able to execute the test with no problem, our AI engine will be able to do the same. And last but not least, you can see here that the script is so simple that it will reduce the skill barriers for people to join to the automation efforts. In addition, we have also the new and the brand new codeless designer that even reduce more the skill set barrier. So I'd like to show you now the design part. So we are going to open UFT1 and we are going to create a new GUI test. Let's create a GUI test. Now we are going to open the mockup images and we are going to use the mockup identification. And as you can see, all the pink rectangles are the ones that are identified by AI engine. And with a simple drag and drop, you can see the syntax created using the new AI util SDK. So you can see here that I'm doing the login action by providing a click, username, password, and click on the action itself. The next thing, once the application exists, I can start the recording. So once I activated the recording and launched the application, you can see here that the AI identify all the different elements. by having the pink rectangle. I can also have a checkpoints directly from the recording itself. I can interact with the different elements. So for example, I'm going to click on the search icon here, and I know that I need to provide an input. This is how the AI engine know how to interact in a natural way. I can also change between visual elements and text using a very advanced OCR capabilities. And one of the most important things, I can add a relation. So I want to click on that object where the proximity to the text is here. And that will create a resilient, very resilient script for you that can be used in your design phase. One more thing that I can use, I can open the inspect if I want to enrich the test itself. This inspect will allow me to add a few more, we'll say, script lines in order to interact with a test. Now, once I've completed to run or to design my test, it might be that the AI will not identify all the elements, right? But we will ensure that you guys will not have any problem with that, because what we are going to help you with the key feedback capabilities is, first of all, to share this feedback with us directly from the tool itself, as you're going to see it in a second. And you have several ways to actually overcome this problem. The first, you can switch back to the property-based identification. You can provide us a feedback. And once a new AI engine will be available, you will be able to consume it and continue and enrich your test with the AI way. There are a few more options, such, for example, creating a custom model for you that will fit to your unique icons. But again, with those different capabilities, you will definitely will have the up-to-date model, and you will get into the position where you can run uninterrupted testing. I want to show you now how easy it is to provide a feedback, and for that, I'm going to continue from the moment where we stop in the design, where was actually the shopping cart. And you can see on the screen that this icon here, the Save Pay, is not identified. And let's see how we can provide feedback easily. So what we are going to click on the link of Help Us to Improve. This will open the embedded feedback service. I can also pixelate if I don't want to share sensitive information. I will choose the element that is not identified for me, and I will give a comment. And either I will save it and send it to Micro Focus, or either I'll send the feedback directly from the tool itself by simple registration to our SaaS service. So this was the kind of how you can provide us feedback. I can tell you that we are getting hundreds of feedbacks today on a daily basis, and that helps our AI to become the best AI engine worldwide to solve the problem of test automation for the enterprise space. And if you remember when I talked about the AI concepts, you need to define a problem that you want to solve, and what is the exact data that you want to be collected in order to solve this problem. So you are here today with us already 2 years after we started this journey, and we had more than few millions of different examples, and those examples are being added on a daily basis to improve the AI engine in order to recognize the different elements that exist in the different software in the enterprise space. Now, the fun part begins. So now we have a single script that we have created, and we are going to execute this script on Chrome in French. We are going to execute this script on iOS, on Apple device in English, on a native application. And we are going to end this execution phase by running the same application, but on Firefox and in English. Just think about the fact that we created a single script and we are going to run it on multiple environments. Just think about how resilient the script is. And if you need to maintain a script, you don't need to maintain multiple scripts. You need to maintain a single script. And that will reduce your maintenance dramatically. And we are going to talk about the numbers that we see from our customers capable of reducing their maintenance work. Of course, you will be able to provide a much more faster feedback to your customers, which are the developers or the entire development organization that you guys are part of. And last but not least, the overall cost of savings definitely will be reduced. So let's run this test all together now. So again, I'll open UFT and I'll use the data table in order to define the different endpoints that I want to interact with. And I'm going to run the test. So I'll start with a Chrome in French. And that will be the first test that I'm going to execute. And you can see here the French language. So I've been using our OCR capabilities in order to do the translation and understand how to interact with the different elements. And you can see here that the test is being executed with no problem. Once I'll finish the Chrome, I'll open the mobile device and grab it from our UFT mobile. I will launch the native mobile application. In that case, you can see it here, provide a username and password, click on the login button, and search for the item, add it to the cart, and everything works perfectly. And now I'll switch to the Firefox in English, and I will run the same test. So that was the fun part, because now we can concentrate on creating a much more enhanced single script with a much more enhanced capabilities, and let the AI take care for the changes, and let the AI to determine what the changes are between different environments and execute those. And why is that? It's mainly because we do not care about the object repositories anymore. And when we talked with one of our customers a few days back, he told us that when he started to work with AI on top of the benefits that I'm just walking you through, he suddenly realized that in the last few years, instead of dealing with what really matters, and that is to mimic the end user actions, which eventually end user will interact with the application in a manual manner, right? So instead of doing this, they were kind of trying to be the magicians of how to identify uniquely the objects, that those won't be break upon every developer change, instead of focusing on what really matters. And dealing with the AI will definitely allow you to continue or to return to deal with the things that really matter to your end users. The last piece of the demo today is the reporting capabilities. The reporting capabilities will allow you to do the following. First, you will be able to have a jump start to use your AI as of today. If you have your latest UFT version, which is the 1502 at this point in time, you will have the AI already exist in your UFT 1. You don't need to buy any new solution for that. You don't need to upgrade any solution for that, because we truly believe that you, as loyal customers of us, can enjoy and should enjoy from latest technologies that exist out there. And you can count on us that we will infuse those into our solutions to make your life easier and make you work much more smarter, as I was starting this session with. So how to do it? Easy AI migration. So you run the test as it is, and you will get an indication inside the test result, the rich reporting, of what the AI syntax can look like, and if specific script line already can be converted to the AI way. Of course, if you have already a script that using the AI, definitely you can gonna get a fast analysis, as you can see here on the screen, and you will see it in a second on the demo. And it will also help you to provide a much more smart problem pinpointing. So let's drive this reporting capability. So the test that I've been executed, you can see the 3 rows. The one, the Chrome, the one that is the mobile device, and the last one is the Firefox browser. And you can see the different elements here on the screen, all the snapshots, including highlighting. One of the things that you might look at is the login action, where in some of the environments we have the login button. In the other environments, we have the sign in button. So we have also educated our AI to understand those different similarities, and based on some algorithms, we know how to interact with the application without failing, although the text is different one. With that, I'd like to kind of summarize what we saw up until now with what will be the key benefits for you guys by leveraging our AI capabilities. So first of all, you're going to focus again on quality and increase the overall quality of your applications, the ones that your business is so care about. So how you're going to get there? You're going to have at least 70% reduction in maintenance cost. How you're going to get into this number? Very easily. Instead of creating multiple scripts, you're going to create a single script. So by definition, you're going to reduce the maintenance time by 66%, just for example, if it's Android, iOS, and mobile web. The resiliency of the assets and the resiliency of the automation scripts are going to be much higher, which also will contribute to the overall cost reduction of maintenance. So the number 70, it's a very reasonable number. I would say that this number can be even higher. And the other number, it's about the increase in automation coverage, at least by 30%. And why is that? Because as you saw, it's much more easy today to create and development the test, at least 3 times faster. And with this simple syntax, as well as with our new codeless capabilities, well, you can extend the reach so everyone on the team can write tests, or the way I like to call it, everyone can join to the automation party. Now, one of the last things I want to kind of convey here before moving back the session to Kim is to talk about this elephant on the table that maybe few of you think about. Will AI eliminate the need for QA engineers? Well, guys, no. Definitely no. But you know what? It's going to help you. It's going to help the QA teams that you are part of to revolutionize the way testing is done. You're going to increase your coverage, you're going to decrease your maintenance, and you're going to make testing fun again. With that, I'll hand it over back to Kim to walk us through a real-life demo with one of our applications that Kim has chosen for today's session. Thank you. Kim, back to you.
Great. I had to unmute myself here. So thank you, Ran. Very good session until now, I think. Are you able to see my screen, first of all? So you should see our UFT Roundtable demo session slide. Is that what we are seeing?
Yes, we are.
Great, good. So what I actually wanted to demo today is twofold. One is kind of a real presentation, a verification of what Iran just showed you on this, what we have on our internal demo app is actually real. It works. It's not just videos. And then the second part, I've done a more specific flow with some production web pages and apps that are used here in real life. Let me get started with that. And I hope that, well, the demo ghost won't appear too many times. Firstly, I have to have this working. So Iran actually showcased this very good, that this one script for all. But the real reason behind is that when we have these different devices, both mobile devices and desktop browsers and web browsers, is that with our traditional object recognition, which still works very fine, very good, and we have thousands of customers built their entire frameworks based on this technology, but we cannot really go around that it is different objects. It's built on different frameworks. It has most likely different IDs, and in some cases they are developed, even the same app is developed by 2 different development houses. So trying to kind of make one unified setup or repository is very hard. With AI, that changes, as Iran also explained. And that is actually one of the things that I would like to show you now. It's like a real demo on this in action. So you can see that it's not just video editing. So this is the UFT editor, the IDE of UFT. And right here, I just have a baseline for my script. So I would like to actually do this that Iran also did, this signing functionality. So let's start with maybe taking a mobile phone, and I can just go here and connect to the UFT mobile. I actually just in a minute, you can see that I'm just saying to this, please open up this specific phone, just for actually developing the script. We can also run with AI recorder. We can also have the traditional record and run settings and actually open the phone through that. But in this case, I'm just opening it up to actually find the app specifically on it, which I thought I could. There it is. It's just my skills here. So now I actually have a real phone. So first of all, this is a real device. It is our Android device connected to our UFT mobile down in, I think, Israel somewhere. And now I can actually go in and say, how do I want to do this? For this demo, I will just use the AI identification to start with. And I will just say, hey, this is actually the screen that I would like to work with. I think it popped up on my other screen. I just need to grab it from here. That's the pleasure of having free screens. So here we can actually see that, again, we have this identification view. We have our mobile phone we can interact with. We can decide if we want to base it on text or if it should be visual elements. And here we have this hamburger menu, which is kind of the menu button. We can just drag that in. Okay, good. So we will do the operation on the phone, refresh the view. Then we can continue doing that process. To actually, let's click on the login button. We can click on the login button. We can refresh this. And this is actually what our new recorder is doing for you manually or automatically. I just have, when I'm doing this on so many screens, it's a bit easier to do it with this AI view. And here I can just go and say we need a username, we need a password, and we also need a login button. And then, okay, we actually have and what can we say, a little issue here. So what is this button something? And that's, again, the logic of this app is that this little thing here, let's say, let's say, just fill in something here, that the button is actually first kind of for real identified when you do like this. The easy way would just be, and that's the cool thing here, you could just type it in. You don't even need this. You can actually just do the entire script here based on what you think that the AI should look like. And then just type in your password text, and you are actually ready to go. And you can do the exact same if we just shut this down. And instead of doing it on a mobile phone, you could do the exact same on a browser. So let's just maximize this. Do the AI identification. And now we'll select the browser instead. So that's the main two things, browser, mobile. And apparently didn't take it by far. Maybe I should actually try to log into the actual application. That might be a good idea. I can open up my setup here and choose this browser. And now we are jumping to the other screen here. I need to drag it over here. So here you should be able to actually see that we have different, maybe just do a little refresh there. That we have, again, we have the username, we have the password, we have the sign-in, and we actually, in this case, instead of what we call the hamburger menu, we have a profile up here. We could just drag that in instead. So this is one of the things that, first of all, as Iran said, this down here, for instance, the login, the sign-in, it can understand that with ease. Sometimes you need, because it has different flows inside the app, you can still instruct UFT to go with different flows. So is it menu and then log in? Is it profile, something click and then add in? It's something that you can control, of course, also, which I will show you in a minute. And actually the last step, which is something that a lot of the customers that I'm talking with has seeing a huge potential is the mockup identification. So here we have that mockup identification that we were, Iran also showed you. But here in real life, if I go to my mockup here, I'm selecting a folder. And for instance here, this is my lovely mockup, my wireframe of how this should look. Again, I could have created the exact same script by doing this. You can see different things like info or Facebook, etc. Everything, these things are identified. So the mockup is actually the real shift left in this setup. And I know a lot of the companies that are doing these mobile apps, especially, they are doing these wireframes before they actually start doing any code at all. So here you could have the automation running ready when you need it to be. So I will just, I think I will close this down. So instead of having this script here, I have, as all good chefs, cooks, I have prepared a little bit in advance. Up here, I have a bit more full-blown script. But inside these, and I think if we are truthfully, it's at the most 25 lines of script. We are both able to open up the application under test, whether it be mobile or it will be web browsers. We are handling different flows. So are we going through a menu button first before you go to the profile? That's what we do here with a single line. We're also handling if the sign-in is actually not functioning, which I know that our test app sometimes doesn't do on Android for some reason. We're actually handling that with very few lines of script. And I've always said that the most, if you can do an if sentence, then you're an automation specialist with UFT. You don't need any more. If we go in and look at the objects, the object repository, I actually have some objects here, but you could have those objects directly stated here just by having browser creation time equals 0 with descriptive programming. But in this case, I've actually decided to use the object repository as my application under tests, a repository for that. So it's for the non-automation person, the only thing that they need to do to have this running is just to go in and fill out in the data table. That's it, in an Excel sheet. And you can see as normally we are running which mobile apps we want to start, which devices we want to actually open, just by filling in a simple identifier of that specific phone. And down here you can actually see that I will be running here on 3 different application on a test. So an iOS, an Android, and a web. And I'm also handling from, for instance, this little setup here, that instead of typing in, what is it that I want to do? Sometimes I would like to hit the profile, which is the AI util profile click. Or sometimes I want to click the hamburger.click. So it's super easy to actually state this with ease and having this to run even if there is different flows also. But let's try to run this. I just need to check one thing, because we have a training session today, and I just saw before that a lot of the phones were actually taken out. But you can see I have actually reserved these two phones for today. But this is our UFT mobile little hub we have for ourselves. Looks good, eh? Right? So let's run this test. So let's see if it's not doing what we actually wanted to do. Let's And I think that one thing is that right now it's running actually as slow as it can do. We are taking pictures and a lot of things in the back, and we are actually constantly working. And I know that to have this running, as fast as possible. But again, it's more important that these things actually runs. At least in my opinion. So now you can actually see that it's going to the next iteration. It's picking the device that I have instructed it to pick. And then it will open up the app and do the same process there. So I hope you're sitting and imagining how you can actually use this technology in your own applications, and if you have similar cases like this. But as you will see in the next demo I have, this cross-function thing is not the only thing where AI can be, a game changer. But I will show you that in a couple of minutes. So, and then we open up the Android device. And just so you know, if you would like our UFT and UFT mobile not to work on specific devices, but just devices with a specific capability set, it's super easy to instruct that also, to just take any Android device with OS 8 or higher, and install this app with this version and run the test. You can do that the same. But for this demo, I'm working on a bit more constructive. And here you can actually see that we actually have this little, error that I also did a little thing for that. It has this app has a little flow thing that I'm handling. Then we can also see how the report is actually looking when the app is misbehaving from what it actually should do. So here you get actually, again, the overall result is that we have one failed. We can see from the test flow, just do this a little bit bigger here, that I have 3 iterations. We can go in and view specific what happened. We can view of things around the AI objects. What is the object identification certainty? 96%. We can see what we clicked on, and we can go further down to the the mobile, we can view everything that happened. Again, the certainty of the object identification is close to perfect. And we can also go down here and see that we handle this, that the user password is correct, but some of the features down. It's just something that I wrote in the log actually. But a thing here is also that, which you can see exactly at any time, where did this run? What is the ID of the phone, type, OS version, and the source from which it came from, which is mobile center here in the specific connector. So this is kind of the validation that what Iran showed you is actually working. And it's working in the version that is out there in the market right now. But I think there is other things than this use case that we have shown many times. And one of those use cases is actually where we have apps we don't control maybe. We don't have them so we can instrument them. It's third-party apps that we need to use. We can even say that if you have apps that actively restricts automation, we can actually also use the AI engine on those. I'm not suggesting that you should do it, but in some cases we have flows like we would see here, where we can actually use AI for doing things that normally is not possible. And I would like to tell you here that this is a use case that I have made by me, only for use in this webinar, and it's not something from a customer example or anything like that, because we are using a open web application that everybody can visit. But it is a customer. I actually think we have a couple of people from them today. But this is one of the flows that I have had a lot of fun actually doing. And in Denmark, I know it's the same in some of the other Nordic countries. Everything we do when we are going to log on to anything with government, banking, even some hairdressers, you need to sign in with your what we call NemID. So authentication apps and flows that actually goes, whether you start the flow in your app or in a web page, it at some point, it will hit your mobile where you need to authenticate that you want to sign into this application. And there's a couple of things here. First of all, in this case, I don't have access to the NemID app. This is simply something I'm using AI on my personal phone to do. Secondly, if you're doing this on a browser, the NemID app is actually actively trying to scan for automation agents. So it's not, it's actually not doable with normal object-based automation. And again, I'm not saying that this is a use case that is like something that you could do or are in need of right now, but it's more the power of the AI that if we can do this, I will just imagine what we can do if we actually have the application code, we have control over those things. So this flow is actually based on the ability to log on through the web, authenticate on mobile, go back to the web page and see what happened. Or go to the mobile app, authenticate through the mobile app, open up the authentication app, authenticate, and go back to the mobile app. So let's have a little view on how that looks as a script. And I have it here. So that entire script can be achieved by a script of, again, 25 lines, that whole process, that whole flow. And in this case that I'm actually showing is directly on the, I actually, do I even remember what I recorded? Sorry. But I have one issue here, and that is that I cannot show you it live. I can show you how it actually identifies stuff. Because if I showed it live, you could take and possibly log in to all my accounts afterwards. And I don't think that I would like that. I trust you, but not that much. And even if you see something, I have changed the code on my app, so don't even try. But again, here you can see that from this, we actually identify both these, for instance, triangles, but we can also, of course, work with what we do here, for instance, text box, up here, NemID, click, super easy. If I click here, we are moved to the NemID. If I refresh this, and take visual elements, we again see here text box, bruger-ID, user ID, right? Adgangskode, password. So everything here is identified. And things like working on these apps is actually not possible with the normal thing, because it doesn't register when you don't have the app instrumented. For instance, when you're pulling in characters for the password. Here, with AI, we're actually just saying AI util and then a number. Then the AI will find that number, 5, and click on it. Then it will click on the next number, which is 5. If I wanted to change this, it's just changing. Now I have a new password that it will input into the application. So super easy. But let's have a little, because I have done a little video of this. And the only thing I have done is run this script, but blurred out some of the critical information that I don't want you to see. Because this is running on a production. So you are actually seeing me logging into my MasterCard account for the SAS MasterCard that I have, which I haven't been using for a long time with no flights anywhere. And you see here that I will actually start out by opening up a browser. So I'm opening up the browser. Clicking on this NemID. Filling in my credentials, which I hope should be blurred. And here we actually have to open up a device. So I have instructed in this little thing here. It's actually opening up the device that I have in the Excel sheet. Open up the NemID app, fill in the actual password, and using an approved slider. And actually, one thing, and this is actually, it's both good and bad. We are working, as Iran also said, constantly of evolving our capabilities, our AI capabilities, our AI, how many objects that we can see and work with. And in this case, this specific slider that we have here with this pan function, me personally, I didn't get it to work with the AI yet. And I know that Iran and the team is working on that. But then I found out that our normal object could actually identify this specific slider. So again, use the AI as much as you can. If you can't do that, use the normal objects. And when the object model is updated, you would actually could be notified that, hey, when you run this test, that there is a new AI object that could be used. And that's also how you could migrate your existing assets to the AI by changing it step by step. And so let's continue here. So after log out, you will click close the actual mobile device, and you can now see that I'm logged into my my banking application here, and the test is done. Of course, you could do that. You could have done whatever you wanted in there. And again, afterwards, you can go in, review what happened, all the screenshots, what happened, etc. So the AI capabilities is not just a gimmick. It is here today to be used. And if you have UFT, you can already use it. If you don't, then, well, I'm sure that we will be in contact after this. So I had half an hour. And I have used half an hour, so that's perfect. So I think I will give it over to, I think Jerry will take it back. Is that correct?
Yes, I'll be happy to take it back, Kim. Brilliant demo. It was great to see. And I see in the chat quite some people liked it. Let's open up for some Q&A, ladies and gentlemen. If you didn't find the chat, by the way, if you go to the bottom bar of your Zoom window, you will have a chat button. So you can post your questions there. Personally, I don't mind if you would use your mic, but as we are with quite some people, it might get a bit messy. So I prefer if you can use the chat, where I have seen some questions posted already. So I hope our two experts, Eran and Kim, will be able to answer some. You know, let's kick off with a question for Eran, maybe. Jesper was asking a little bit around, I think, how our AI is recognizing the objects. And he had a question more specifically on, are we introducing neural optic image recognition? I think you showed some of the things, but maybe, Eran, you can tell a little bit more about it.
Yes, definitely. So the way we are using or doing the recognition is by taking a snapshot of the application under test. This snapshot is being sent into the AI engine behind the scenes. The AI is not a cloud service whatsoever. It's embedded into your UFT. So no worries in regards to data privacy. This snapshot is being first processed and analyzed in terms of determine what are the different objects that we have on the screen, right? So after we understand what are the different objects we have on the screen using computer vision capabilities, those computer vision capabilities actually help us to understand if we see a card, if we see a menu, if we see a button, and you can find all the classes that we support today in the online documentation of the UFT1. Once we see all the different elements, we also determine where exactly those elements appear on the screen. So if we need to interact with them, then we know exactly, for example, if we need to click on a button, where is the area within the screen that we want to click on it. All of this information of what we saw on the screen, what can be done with the different elements, and where exactly those are located, this is the information that is being sent back from the AI service to the UFT1. And then you can start interact with the different objects, and you see the pink rectangles where you drag and drop. It means that we know to identify both what we see on the screen, how to interact with it, and where exactly that resides. And if you remember when Kim showed you, there is also the relations option. So relation will give you a more, I would say, a more tuning capabilities. So not just for us to count on where exactly to click on the specific object, but the exact relations to other elements on the page. So those kind of things are the ones that are using the computer vision capabilities. And the computer vision, this is an area of an AI which relate to the perceptions, as I previously explained.
Excellent answer, Eran. Thank you. By the way, it's amazing how you can talk without moving. It seems like your video froze there, but that's no problem at all. Maybe related a little bit to that question, somebody asked me as well, I think you showed it and Kim showed it as well, that you can really do shift left testing. So can you talk a little bit more and maybe on how ready does my app really needs to be before I can start using AI capabilities? Not sure if we have Eran still with us. Eran? Maybe we lost him for a second.
Yeah.
Kim?
Yeah, but I can try to answer it. I think Eran maybe would be better to answer the specific question. He has a little bit more in-depth knowledge on that. But from what I've been working on, it's I've been working on PowerPoint slides. So you can actually just build it in a as a PowerPoint, take a picture of it and upload it. I think there is some resolution things that are actually the main topic, that you need to have some good resolution, high resolution pictures, so to actually use for the mock-up to find it. And of course, still I don't think it will do hand-drawn pictures yet. That would be cool. But if you are making a box and you type in username in it, it will find it. I also think I just briefly showed it, that you can find both like pictures created in a real design editor, or just something that you have scribbled down in PowerPoint, for instance.
Excellent. And indeed, that was a question as well from one of the people for the capabilities on using AI on a mockup. Do you need a specific application to create a mockup? I think you just answered that, right?
Yes. So no, you don't. But I would guess, would be nice if Eran was here, but I would guess that the more it mimics the objects that we actually uses in the actual applications, because our model, the base model that we have, is of course trained on how an application actually looks like in real life. Of course, you can also.
Oh yeah, Kim, I think you're right on spot. Basically, every mock-up solution that exists out there to create the different applications that you have within your organization have the ability to extract the images, and those can be fitted into our AI engine.
Excellent, and welcome back, Eran. Maybe, Eran, now you're back. A follow-up question on this for you. We've seen kind of different technologies. We saw web, we saw some mobile. What technologies does our AI support?
The technologies that are supported in our AI are the web and the mobile. Now, it's a bit of funny because we said up until now that we don't care about the technologies, right? Because we take the snapshot. So basically, you might guys ask, so why you guys are not supporting the desktop? Because it's a snapshot. So what we are doing in regards to the to this one is that think about screen size. So mobile has its own screen size and the web has its own screen size. In desktop, it's a bit of not related to the screen size, but more of things that are related to the agents and to the way we hook on the way we kind of replaying the scripts. But the good news is that our desktop support is just behind the corners. And in the next release of our AI capabilities, the desktop will be part of it. That's for sure. I just see that you cannot see my video. I'll try to run my video again. Let's see if that will work. If not, I know. But again, my video is working now. So if that can be arranged, that would be great.
Excellent. And thanks for the answer, Eran. I think, Marcus, you asked a question about, indeed, thick client applications running on desktop. So I think that Eran just answered that with the desktop support being around the corner. Okay. Kim, a question for you maybe. Maybe you talked about it, but of course, a lot of the people in the webinar today, they know UFT. They've been working with it with the traditional, I would say, object recognition. And maybe they have a lot of existing tests already built in, let's say, the classic traditional way. So how easy is it to kind of integrate the AI capabilities in these existing tests and maybe migrate them to use more AI in it?
Yeah. So first of all, there's not the notion of migrating. There is a notion of taking. There's actually today inside UFT in the newest version, you can go into the settings of AI and do a little tick on actually doing a report on add something to the report that shows you in the report when you run your scripts which objects that the AI engine actually identified and that could be reused instead of the ones that you are using currently that is object based. So if you have a script, you would actually just have to run that script. You will get a report. In the report, you can see that out of the 50 different objects that you are using, 25 of them right now could be swapped out for AI objects. And you can see what they are calling them and the how much percentages it has in the, how good it is identified, etc. And also, as Eran said, this is not something that you need to, plug on top or beside or whatever. It is in UFT today when you install it. So and our swap out for the AI, especially if you have places in your application, if something runs 100% every time, then why change? But if you have these areas that are constantly changing or failing every second build, whatever, then maybe you should begin to investigate if you could replace them with AI objects. That will at least be the first step.
Great answer. Very clear. By the way, you mentioned it is in UFT today. What version is the latest and which one did you use for the demo?
Yeah, it's 15.02.
Excellent. Great stuff. I do see quite some questions in the chat, which are around what happens if, the application changes a little bit, if the interface changes. Will AI be able to handle it? And how does this happen? Maybe Eran, you can take this one.
Yes, I'll be happy to. So the thumb rule will be that as long as a human being will be able to execute a test, although those changes will be introduced, our AI engine will be able to do the same. If human being will need to kind of have a different manual script in order to run the test, probably you will need to maintain the script as well. But this maintenance of the script, remember that we talked about maintaining a single script and not multiple scripts. And that is a dramatic change for you guys, because if you remember, you talked about tests keep breaking and pace of change and lack of coverage. And one of the key benefits of using the AI, and as you saw also given by Kim, is that you can create a single test and not multiple scripts. So the bottom line, as long as human being will be able to execute the manual script, although the changes, our AI will be able to do the same.
Wonderful. That sounds great. A question for Marcus I've seen as well, a short one. Kim, when you were demoing the NAM ID, of course, you blurred your username and password as it was visible on the screen. Marcus was wondering if is there an easy way in UFT to hash or encrypt passwords and stuff like that?
Yes, there are. But that is specifically in this case, you could actually see even some of the passwords, even though. So normally you have this set secure password, which is an encryption, which is built into UFT. There's a little encryption tool. So, but I knew that I would do this anyhow because, well, of things. And the actual password for the application, you could actually see where I was hitting. But yes, we have an encryption tool built into it. I'm actually, and Iran, you have to maybe correct me. I'm not entirely sure if that set secure is built into the AI utility already.
It is.
It is. Okay,
you're right on spot.
Good. So I could just have used that. So.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kim. Quite an interesting question from Jesper, and he mentioned it in the beginning as well. And it's all around. He calls it here self-healing capabilities, or more or less automating the test automation. How can AI really help to provide better test coverage and eventually maybe auto-generate writing of test cases? Is that something we're looking at, Iran?
I wonder who asked this question and if we can onboard him to our team, because this is exactly our future. We started the foundation with AI, first of all, solve the problem of identifying the objects in a much more accurate way than in the past. But this is just the starting point. For us, we are looking at how different areas within the AI can help us to automate the automation, as you said, which is something that we are looking at how we can grab and extract data from production and understand the different flows that are being used by the users. And if we have this information and we have this knowledge and we have the NLP capabilities, then I would say the way to get into autonomous testing, this is definitely something that we can foresee in the next few years ahead of us. This is in regards to the automated automation. By the way, we are doing also some work regarding how we can introduce a new way of showing the different test cases within your application under test around model-based testing and others. And that will help us also to automate the automation based on the different flows that can be easily understood from this model base and creating the test almost on the fly, I would say. Don't worry, it will not eliminate the need for you to have in the team to create those different complex flows, but definitely part of the hectic work will be taken from you and will be done by the AI engines. So this is the first part of the answer. The second part regarding the self-healing, I think that the self-healing, basically what we saw when we were also dealing with self-healing capabilities within our solutions, is mainly about giving this as a patch for the fragile identification. Now, once the identification itself, it's much more robust and ignore those changes that are being introduced by the users, and the underlying identifiers are not a factor anymore in the automation. So the need to have self-healing is decreased dramatically, and the self-healing will happen on the fly by using the AI engines behind the scenes.
Wow, amazing answer, Eran. It's when I started in testing a few decades ago, stuff like that was sounding like science fiction, but it sounds like it's really coming. Excellent. I'm almost going through my questions in the chat. People, if you still have some questions, now is the time to get them out in the chat. One more for Eran, because you have some good answers. For all us testers here in the session, what else do we need to know to really leverage the AI in our testing?
The good news, Jerry, is that the only thing that you need to know is your application under test. We will take care for all the rest, right? We are going to take care for the AI engines to be baked for you. We are going to take care for the AI engines to be the best in the market. And you will just need to know how to drag and drop the elements as you saw by Kim. and all the rest will be taken by UFT. And for us, that was extremely important when we started dealing with AI, because on its own, it's a super complex topic, which require heavy computing capabilities in order to generate those engines and doing the training phases. But we are taking care of that, no worries. You guys will just need to take care of how to do the automation in the most efficient way by leveraging and using those capabilities. And trust us, as long as we will be here in order for us to improve the AI engine, to get the feedback from you, I would say that in the next few months, the AI engine, if not already as of today, will be the best engine in the market for the software test automation.
Excellent. Excellent. I just got a last question popping up from Niklas in the chat. And he's saying there is some AI functionality in the latest UFT 15.0.2. How much of the functionality of what is shown today is present in 15.0.2? I'm not sure if I understand it correctly, but did you
So
show
all of the things that Kim used in his demo and all of the things that I showed you in my demo, they are all included in 15.02. We didn't show you any kind of coming soon, tech preview, whatever. We do have also some a nice tech preview around codeless and a brand new codeless editor, which was not part of today's session. And if you're interested to see these new codeless capabilities, let us know, and we will be more than happy to have a dedicated session on that. But all the things that Kim has been used and I showed you, available in 15.02. The only thing you need to do is to use your SAID number, download the latest 15.02. You can go to the online documentation. You have a great detailed online documentation how to start using your AI in your existing automation journey.
Excellent. So this version can be downloaded today. And of course, if you're using an older version of UFT today, and you have an existing maintenance contract, of course, you are entitled to receive this latest version, and you can download it and use your license of the older version as well. So that answers Ramesh's question as well, I guess. I'm through my questions at this point. Thank you, everybody, for the great questions. I hope you also received all the good answers. Of course, you now saw that, we have the local team, we have the product team really there to support you. So please get in touch with us. If questions pop up later, we'll be more than happy to address those as well. Running a bit ahead of schedule, I think, but that's good. I think we had a really good Q&A session. But before we really end the session, I would like to say thank you from my side as well. And I would like to hand over to Jukka for the final words of the session.
Hey, thanks everyone for the very active questions and really good questions from all of you. And as you can see, we all have it available today. This was not a roadmap session, and you can all just download the latest release and take it into use. And for Jesper, thanks for the note about extending the partnership with you guys. Happy to do that. You are already one of our biggest partners in the region. And just to all of you know that we have very flexible commercial models for all of you. Just ask around us how is your business case in your end customers, if you are a partner, or in your company, what kind of models work for you? Just let us know in the sales team, and we are happy to look into the different licensing models that makes most sense for your case. But before we finish, I hope you were impressed. At least some of you were. I can see from the comments from chat, as I promised in the beginning. So thanks, Kim and Iran, for the presentations. And please remember, we have the Universe event coming up. There's a lot more to come there in our testing offering. And during next week, you will receive an email from us for the more detailed agenda for our application delivery. days during the Universe event. So you will see, so you will be then able to schedule it into your personal calendars as well. But please register to the Universe event already now, so that you will get the information from us. There is a link in the chat. Use that and sign up and learn more about UFT and our other testing tools and technologies then with us. But thank you very much. Don't hesitate to contact us for any further questions or how we can support or help you better. So have a very nice afternoon.